Chase. Dr. Joe Griffin. Yeah. I introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin, a speaker, consultant, and author's intention is teaching. Their talk is to broaden their vision, the things they weren't taught when they brought up as children. I introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin. It's Dr. Joe Griffin. I introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin, a speaker, consultant, and author's intention is teaching. Their talk is to broaden their vision, the things they weren't taught when they brought up as children. Reach for the top, regardless of situations, predicaments, or your conditions. He's making history, all of the districts, increasing retention from teachers, 50 to 80%. That ain't all that you hear me. He is the mentor. He paved the way with his dip methodology, really. Dream, be persistent, face fears, seek change, go out and go get it. This what you learning with Dr. Joe Griffin. With Dr. Joe Griffin, yeah. He says recognize trauma, push past the pain. If you got a problem, go look at his frame. Work your perspective and look at it change. Find a goal, set it in critical thing. Manage time, self-awareness. These are the few of the things he's trying to get you to do every day. Do every day. Led 5 schools to increase test scores with his teacher principal collaboration. Things he give to you will have you take you drive to the next level. But first, you need to get some fuel at gas station. Supporting education leaders, creating a culture for kids that'll last for ages. Lack of access to quality professional development, that's outrageous. Got his doctorate in education. Leadership, research, make changes. Need to put the kids first and raise them. Need to teach them they worth, stop playing. Later on, they gon' run this nation. Dr. Joe with his dissertation taught to those who would fix, make changes. I introduce you to Dr. Joe Griffin, a speaker, consultant, and author's intentions is teaching. Their talk is to broaden their vision, the things they weren't taught when they brought up as children. Reach for the top, regardless of situations, predicaments, or your conditions. He's making history, all of the districts, increasing retention from teachers, 50 to 80%. They ain't all that you hear me. He is the mentor. He paved the way with his dip methodology, really. Dream, be persistent, face fears, seek change, go out and go get it. This what you learning with Dr. Joe Griffin. With Dr. Joe Griffin.
Great day, leaders. Welcome to week 22 of the Speaking Life and Leadership live stream. I am your host, Dr. Joe Griffin. But we talk leadership dynamics, educational trends, personal and professional growth, and we provide solutions to help you with school improvement. Let's go! It's all about creating a culture of collaboration. I got a little echo right here, so it's kind of bothering me just a little bit, but we're going to keep going. I just want to thank you all for keep coming out each single week, joining us. We got definitely a great episode for you tonight, and it's all about adding value to what you're already doing, helping you put yourself in situations where you could be successful. I just want to welcome you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for keep showing up, you all. We appreciate you. Happy holidays. Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, all of the above, y'all. Time is of the essence, okay? Time is of the essence. And that's one of the things we definitely want to talk about today, in addition to the things that we're going to talk about as far as grant writing and so forth. First off, let me know where you're calling in from, you all. Where are you signing in from? I need to know where you're calling in from, where you're streaming from. It's important, you all. We appreciate you coming each and every week, but I definitely want to know where you're streaming in from. I'll give you a few minutes, few seconds just for that as we prepare to move forward. Here, give me just a second, you all. Okay, there it is. I had a little echo, and it's definitely gone now, so I handled that. So you all, as we prepare to close out 2024, we've got to know that time is of the essence. I'm gonna give you five quick things to think about with time being of the essence, because every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month, every quarter matters. So long we had to talk around, you got time to do it. It'll be there tomorrow. I know you hear that all the time, but we got to rethink some of that, because time is of the essence. First off, time reflects your priorities. What you value, that's where your time often goes. So you have to protect your time. Make sure you're putting it to use that's going to benefit you as well as those around you. Time is of the essence. So it's important that you understand that you must reflect on your priorities. And what you do with your time reflects your priorities. Secondly, use the time during these holidays to recharge and realign. And what I mean by that, recharge yourself intentionally through reflection, through deep, purposeful reflection, thinking about those things that have worked for you, those things that have not worked for you, as well as those things that you want to do better. This is crucial. Time. Use your time during these holidays to recharge, reflect, and realign your thinking. Now, that doesn't mean just be a couch bum. That doesn't mean don't think about what you have to do during the next year, 2025. That definitely means to still think about those things. So you have to remember that you're putting yourself in the best position where you can be successful. Thirdly, you got to understand that time is the most valuable resource that we have. I'm going to say that again. Time is the most valuable resource that we have. Life is time. I'm going to say that again. Life is time. Because when life stops, for each of us individually, so does our time. Time is of the essence. It's the most valuable resource that we have, and you can't get it back. You can get money back. You can get friends back. You can get all of these other resources that we have back. But time is one of those things that you can't get back, because when it's over, it's over. So make sure we're using our time positively and to accomplish the goals that we set out for ourselves and for those who we represent, for those that are on our team. Fourthly, time is a gift. Time is a gift that we give and share with others, whether it's through mentoring, whether it's through listening, whether it's collaborating with peers. Time is a gift, and we have to treat it as such. I didn't always realize how important time is to what we want to accomplish. But I'm in a space now where every minute counts. I know how valuable it is because you can't get it back. So remember that time is of the essence. And this last point that I want to talk to you about time, the time is now. The time is now. The time is now, right now. We can't wait another second. Those plans that you've had, it's time to put into action. It began as a thought. It began as a feeling. Then it went to a thought. Then it went to a vision. Then it went to you thinking about goals. And from goals, you start to put a plan together. And after you got the plan together, now it's time for action. And after action comes results. And the thing about it, if the results are not like you want them to be, that doesn't mean that you stop going for your dreams, your hopes, your goals. That means that you reboot. That means you realign. That means you go back and look through that plan. You figure out where it was that the plan took a misstep. Those are some things that you could do as far as knowing and ensuring that you're treating time as if it's of the essence. Remember that time reflects your priorities. Remember to use time to recharge and realign. Remember that time is the most valuable resource that you have. Remember that time is a gift that we give to others. And remember that the time is now. And we're going to use that as a prelude to an in-depth conversation that we're going to have tonight, because we're talking about grant writing. We're talking about unlocking opportunities, grant writing for impactful change, making a difference immediately in your school community, in your organization, because I do understand that we're going to have more than just educators tuning in to this grant writing mini workshop. So I have a guest, a recurring guest. Really, he's becoming more like a co-host, friend, mentor, colleague, affiliate. Written over $100 million in grants, as I've mentioned on the flyer, and has done various other things within the school realm, including being an area superintendent, an author, educational leadership professor, and so forth. I bring to the stage Dr. Robert Kirton. Dr. Kirton, how you doing,
How you
brother?
doing, Doctor? I'm doing great, Dr. Joe. It's good to be with you again. I'm closing out 2024 year.
Definitely. As we all are. I just want to say I appreciate you over the course of the first 22 weeks. Been a successful 22 weeks. You think you appeared with us 4 or 5 times, and we got other definitely topics that we're going to discuss over the course of 2025 as well. So I just want to publicly express appreciation to you, thankfulness to you for what you do, not only in education realm, but for what we do together, and for you coming on the live stream every so often. I appreciate you for that, brother. It means a lot.
Well, I appreciate you too, sir. And it's been a great partnership working with you. Our in-depth research and postgraduate studies has been awesome. And looking at the DNA behavior of individuals and teams and collaboration has been very important to me as well.
Oh, man, we're going up. We're going up in 2025. And that's with everyone. That's the mentality that we all want to have. You've got to be optimistic, at the same time realistic, put those goals in perspective, and take care of your business. That's what it's all about. So again, thank you. And we're going to dive right in. I know we got people that are interested in the conversation. I know that grant writing has long been a source of funding for schools, organizations, and so forth. So we diving into a really critical topic that impacts educators, impacts schools, communities, and everywhere. And as the title alludes to, it unlocks opportunities to create lasting change for students, teachers, and as I said before, communities. So before we get started, I definitely want to get the crowd involved. What is one area of need that you already know, that you've thought about, or that you're thinking about right now as we speak? What's one area of need in your school, organization, or community that could possibly be assisted through grant writing? Because we got a great time for you tonight. We're going to inform you tonight on some steps on crafting that proposal, as well as Dr. Kirton and I are going to walk you through some ways to get it done. So what's an area of need in your school, community, organization? And we definitely want you to participate in the chat. I ask you all the time, but if you're not, still think about it for yourself, because this is all about help. It's about empowerment. It's about putting us in a space where we can be better. I like to call it our think tank, our weekly think tank. So moving right along with you, Dr. Kirton, and I'm sure we'll get some participation. It can also feel, grant writing can also feel overwhelming, but it's all about understanding those key elements that the funders, the money people are looking for. So let's start with the basics. Dr. Kirton, will you explain why the introduction and the abstract is so important for a grant proposal?
Absolutely. The introduction or abstract is like your elevator pitch. It's the first thing the grant reviewer reads, and it sets the tone for everything else. So think of it as a snapshot of your project, summarizing the who, the what, the where, and the why. I'm gonna give you a pro tip. I'm gonna give you a lot of tips here. Like you said, you talk about me successfully writing $100 million in grants. I'm gonna throw some disclaimers out there. I didn't write those grants alone. I always had a team. And I've probably written about $200 million worth of grants, but 100 million of them didn't get funded. So never give up, and, and make sure you create a framework, because I got a file full of grants that didn't get funded, and sometimes I recycle those same grants back through and they get funded. So never give up. Don't get discouraged if your grant doesn't go through the first time. But that introduction is like your abstract. And the pro tip I'm gonna share with you: write that last though. Because if you write it last, it'll give you a true reflection of the whole proposal. And you can ensure it is concise, it's accurate, and engaging.
Love it, love it, love it. So what I'm hearing when I heard you talk about that, the introduction, even though you said write it last after you have already completed the other portions of it, it sounds like it's more like a first impression. Sounds like just like in relationships, that first impression is really, really important as far as leaving a lasting mark or a legacy with the funders, so to speak, something to move them to know that what you need is very important. It's a big deal for your school or for your organization. Would I be right in assuming that?
Oh, you're absolutely correct on that. You know, I've been on both sides. I've read grants, I've graded grants, and that elevator pitch is the first thing that the grant reviewer reads. So you want to make that great first impression, because it's going to set the tone for them reviewing the rest of the grant. And it might just be a small detail that gets them to choose your grant versus someone else.
Gotcha. So how do you make those first few sentences of a grant proposal count? What, I know you said the elevator pitch, but for those who may not be aware of what that is, what goes into that, and how do you make it stick? How do you make it count for something?
Just say if you were getting on the elevator with Bill Gates and you had to impress him, you just had a minute to impress him. So you want to give him a snapshot of what your project is about. So you don't have a long time to do that. So you want to summarize who you are, what you're trying to do, where you're going to do it at, and why you're going to do it.
Summarize. Say that again for us.
You want to summarize who you are, what you're going to do, where you're going to do it at, and why is it important.
Love it, love it, love it. And that leads right into one of our next pieces. Why is it important to include your background information as far as your company, your organization, or whoever may be writing the grant? Why do the funders want to know about the background information of the company or the grant writer?
Well, Dr. Joe, funders want to know who they're investing in. So this background section tells them your story, what your organization has achieved. It describes your mission and what it is, and why you're the right team to tackle this project to receive these funds. It's about establishing your credibility and trust. Mm-hmm. For example, I often highlight a school's track record of success, like improving graduation rates or running effective community programs, things that you have had success with in the past.
Love it, love it. And I heard you say it ties back to trust. Funders, they want to know who you are, what you're capable of before they prepare to invest in you, and which only makes sense. So I think it's very important that you make the case in their background to ensure that they know exactly what it is you're servicing, who it is that you're servicing, and your plans for making sure that those services are rendered, those services are taken care of. So I definitely love what you're saying. I know our viewers are hearing it as well. The next part of it is the need. And I know that through some of the grants that I've worked with as well, it was as a principal, and I tried to get one funded as well. We didn't meet the deadlines with our schools. But tell us a little bit about why the need, that portion of the grant proposal, is so important. Why is it such a big deal?
Well, you know, my consultancy is called Data Needs Action.
Yeah.
And the needs is a huge deal. This is where you make your case. This is where you make them feel you. They got to feel you. You're telling funders why your project matters, what particular problems it addresses, and why it is urgent. Time is of the essence. Think of it like this. If the funder doesn't feel the need, they won't feel the need to compel to fund you. And you can't just say, we need this. Everybody needs it. The needs are enormous. The resources are few. You got to bring data. You got to bring testimonials and have a clear connection to your community needs as well.
Love it, love it. So it's more than just a request. It's the story. It's the story that compels the founders to chunk out the money or to give the money, so to speak. So with that, I want to get some crowd engagement. Think about your own projects. Think about the things that you're doing in your schools, your communities. What's a compelling need that your organization has? Think about it as we continue to discuss the areas of focus for the actual grant writing process. Think about what you need in your school, because this could be an opportunity. This could be an opportunity to unlock some funds that are just waiting on you. A lot of times I hear that those grants become unfulfilled. People don't fill out the paperwork. And what happens to that money? It goes back. It goes back to the government, so to speak. So we want to make sure that we putting ourselves and our school communities in a position where they could be successful. So once you set the stage with the introduction and the need, I know that then it's time to dive into the big heart of the proposal. And that's kind of where the magic's supposed to happen, where you should be getting into your story. What makes the project description stand out in a grant proposal, Dr. Kirton? Because I know that you have not only written grants, but you've also been on grant review committees. So what makes a project stand out in a grant proposal?
That's a great question. You got to make sure that you stand out. So I'm always looking for angles and ways I can make whoever I'm writing a grant for, whether it's for myself, it's for a school district or superintendent. I was just talking to a superintendent the other day. How can we make this grant stand out? Because they wasn't asking for a lot of detail for the initial portion of the grant. So we got to make it stand out. This is where you bring your vision to life. You need to be detailed, but you got to be inspiring. Like you inspiring every week on your podcast. What's the project? I mean, who does it help? How will it run? So when I write these project descriptions, again, I think about storytelling. I think about painting a picture of the impact this project will have. It's about helping the grant reviewer see the changes that you're trying to create within your school and your community.
Awesome, awesome. So clarity, passion, purpose is what I took out of it. You got to be clear and concise, but also passionate and inspiring through your art of telling your story to get the grant funded, as well as clear with your purpose. So wow. So that's definitely great information. If the funders are excited, if you're excited, I imagine that the funders will probably get some excitement going as well. And that also, and I'm gonna ask you a little bit more about this after this next question, but that's got me thinking about writing techniques, especially with me being an ELA specialist as well, because we grow up writing creatively. And then when you get into more advanced writing, dissertation, formal writing, etc., you go into a technical writing style. And then what I'm hearing for grant writing as such, you got to kind of have a mix of creative plus technical in order to tell your story, but also be on point with what you need. Does that make sense? Or are you following me on that? Does that sound like what you do?
Sense. That makes a lot of sense, because you got a lot of competition. So you got to make sure you stand out and make sure that you're compelling with your story and making sure that you convince the grant reviewers, and there might be more than one. So they might be coming from different perspectives. So you got to think about all of that when you're putting together your story.
Okay. So we're going from introduction to need to description. Now, what about methodology? What does that mean? I know that's a portion on most grant proposals as well. What do the funders mean when they ask for methodology?
Well, methodology, it's just like a fancy word for your game plan. You're an athlete, you got to have a game plan going into any game.
Yeah.
The funders want to know step by step how you achieve the goals of your project. They want to know the timelines. Time is of the essence. They want to know the key activities. It's like giving them a roadmap to your success. The methodology or the game plan shows that you thought through this and that you have a clear strategy to get the job done with the resources that they're going to provide you.
Okay. So this kind of where the proposal goes from dreams to plans, where you actually go from seeing it in your head, envisioning those things that you want to do within the grant, and now you're going to put it together in a plan. And as we talked about earlier, you go from your plan to your action, and then you automatically going to have results, whether they're good or whether they're bad. So it sounds like SMART goals. Would be very helpful in grant writing as well, making something specific, measurable, attainable, relative, as well as time-oriented, results-oriented, and timely. So how you recommend setting goals and objectives?
Well, you just hit the nail right on the head. You got to keep those goals SMART. You got to be specific. They got to be measurable, achievable, relevant to the grantor and the grant funds, and time bound. For example, instead of just saying we want to improve reading, I would say we aim to increase reading by scores by 10% in 2 years. Funders love this because you're being very specific, you're being time bound, and you giving a lot of clarity. It makes it easier for them to evaluate the impact of their investment.
Okay. So with that, I want to get the crowd involved. If you've ever written goals for a project, what's one tip that you would give others to make them stronger? If you've ever written goals for a project, and this is for crowd input, what tips would you give to someone to make them stronger? Put it in the chat. People need to hear this information. So definitely think about that. How can you make your goals appear stronger? Every great project has to have a foundation. It has to have something to stand on. And I know that in grant writing, the foundation is your budget. It provides your sustainability plan, as well as sets the tone for your partnerships, how you're going to move, deal, operate within the grant. What's your advice for creating a good budget, a good grant budget?
Well, Dr. Joe,
grant budget.
I made some mistakes on this budgeting part before on some of my grants. And Dr. Joe, I always tell people, don't just throw numbers on a page. Your budget is a story told in dollars. Every line item of your budget should tie back to the project's goals that we just talked about. And, you need to be realistic. Funders don't want to see inflated costs. And sometimes the mistake I made, they said, well, you're going to get $100,000. So I would come right up to $100,000. Don't do that. Don't come right up to the project goal number. Don't try to get every penny out of it, but make sure it's realistic. Because you just said they offered $100,000 and your costs come up to $100,000, that just don't seem realistic to me. But they also don't want to see an underfunded project. They want to make sure you got enough funds to carry out your project. So the key here is transparency and explain why each cost is necessary.
So transparency, I heard you mention transparency, and then details. How do you balance between being transparent but providing enough detail, but not too much detail where they don't fund it, but enough detail to get it funded. What's the balance there? How do you make that happen?
Well, I think you make that balance by making sure that you stay connected to your goals, your objectives, and then breaking it down to your strategies for each goal. So staying tied back to those goals is important. And then again, being transparent, because if you got a goal of accomplish getting students to a particular point A versus point B, and you don't provide any transportation costs in there, it's not tied to your goals, and you're underfunding your project. So again, explain why each cost is necessary. And also, Dr. Joe, and make sure that they say you can't spend these funds on computers, don't put that in there. That seems like a no-brainer. But I've read grants and they say, hey, you can't spend this money on salaries, or you can't spend this money on computers. You got to make sure that you give the grant reviewers what they're asking for. Are they asking for it in order of A, B, and C? Give it to them A, B, and C. Don't go E, F, G. Give it to them the way that they're asking for it. So make sure you stay closely tied to it.
Love it, love it, love it. So it sounds like it's about long-term impact. It's about showing the funders that you are not going to waste their money, so to speak, that you're going to put it to good use and so forth. And with that, I know that there's also a sustainability piece that grant writers, grant funders often look for. They want to see how it's going to play out over the long term. What are next steps as far as implementation after the initial phases and what have you? How do you create those types of plans that the people with the money would trust?
Well, that's a good point, because funders want to see results and they want to see longevity. You know, for evaluation, sometimes I bring in an outside source, and I recommend setting clear metrics, how you will measure success. How will you show them that you're measuring for success? That's very important. Now, for sustainability, show that you're thinking about the grant beyond the grant period. That's very important. Sometimes people miss this little subtle piece here. Make sure that you're thinking beyond the grant period. For example, we talk about this a lot. We've done a lot of this in our research. Will you build partnerships? Will you secure matching funds? So you got to dig out those matching funds. A good sustainability plan reassures funders that their investment will have a long-lasting impact beyond the grant period. And that's important to make sure that you clearly show that to the grant funders.
I love it. I love it. You got any examples of times where partnerships played out the right way with grants?
Yeah, I'm thinking about one. There's so many, but I can remember we had a partnership with a local dealership. And so that's why I say it's more than about writing a grant for me. It's about developing a framework. So we had this partnership, and I remember telling the superintendent, and I think I told you this before, that we're giving the students a car. And he said, Kirton, are you crazy? You giving students a car? I said, yes, sir. You know I'm crazy. But we're giving them a car, but we're not giving it to the student. We're giving it to the parents. And we're giving it to them based off attendance, achievement, and attitude, or lack of referrals. But then we didn't have any liability because our partner, the local dealership, gave away the car. Yeah. So they gave us a car, a used car. We bought it over to our Korean Technology Center. We ran it through our shops. We gave it a nice fancy paint job. And man, it was a big hit. So we had this drawing. So that really gave us latitude when we wrote grants and looking at community service grants, Korean technology grants, that we had a partnership that was willing to give us a car. So that was a very strong partnership that we had with that dealership. Okay. And we also did mentorships there, apprenticeships, and we had a strong apprenticeship program with them as well. So we built more than just a grant. We had a framework. That's why I call our module grant writing and resource development, because you might not get the grant, but how can you develop resources within your community and through partnerships?
I love it. Love it. Partnerships, collaboration, they show your grant funders and grant writers that your grant has support. It's got far reaching or wider reaching support, and it's going to be of benefit to those that you're serving. So appreciate that information to add to it. And with that, the crowd, have you ever worked on a project with a partner or did a collaboration that proved to be beneficial? Have you ever worked on a project with a strong partner or collaboration? Tell us how that made a difference, because partnerships matter. You know, partnerships matter. It's all about collaboration. It's all about continuing to work with and through other people, because we can't get things done by ourselves. We got to make sure we enlist a team. We enlist people who are on this journey with us. Every journey has its lessons. And with grant writing, I know that it's no exception. We've gone from introduction to need to description to methodology and so forth. So we want to wrap up now with some reflections. Dr. Kirton, what's one key lesson that you learned from your grant writing journey that we can share with the listeners today?
Well, we've pretty much already been hyping on it, and that's partnership and collaboration. The biggest lesson I learned that collaboration is everything. Always try to get a couple of other agencies to grow in with you, and also make sure that you have a team. As I said, a great proposal isn't written by just one person. It's a team effort. So make sure you engage your stakeholders, that you involve your community, and get input from your team. Don't go alone. That's why the research that we're doing with the DNA Global Assessment is important. And, you know, we talk about this DNA Global Assessment because that's one of the things we're doing a lot of research on and postdoctoral study with. And that's important because you need that team approach. You need to make sure you understand the needs of the community. So you need to make sure that your stakeholders are engaged and involved. Another grant that we had a great partnership with was some time ago. I don't want to date my age, but we wrote a grant. It was for a national tech prep demonstration project. And that's when they were doing tech prep back in the day. I don't know if they're still doing tech prep, but we were one of 14 people in the country, and we had the largest share of the grant because we didn't go in asking for more at first, but then we left leeway to go back and then get additional funding because of our strong partnerships. And from that tech prep demonstration grant, we graduated 100% of our Black male students. So now we're showing a background for other folks, and we keep building on that success. We had other things to build on because of what we've done with the first set of funds, and then we brought in partnerships with this tech prep demonstration grant.
Definitely. Wow, that is great information. And I know that we talked about the DNA development model. You want to, I'm gonna pull that up for you, and we can do a quick discussion on that for our viewers as well. I know we want to talk about some of the reasons that your grant may not be funded. You want to tackle that, Dr. Kirton?
Yeah. Yes, leave it up on the screen for me there. And this is a part of our grant and resource development module. So we give you some key and crucial information, but we give you even more when we do a live workshop. So I'm looking forward to collaborating with you on this and doing something with your DIP approach and for some of the school districts you're working with across the country. But the 7 reasons, I state 7 reasons why your grant might not be funded. The problem and need are not well stated. So you want to make sure that they feel your need. And you got to be creative in your approach because this is a competitive event. This is like a NCAA championship. This is very competitive. So you got to be creative in your approach. You got to make sure that your objectives and goals are well defined. And, you know, making sure that those goals are smart, as you indicated earlier. Ignoring instructions guarantees a rejection. Now, I'm going to say that again. Ignoring instructions guarantees a rejection. And I've been on the other end reading grants, and I'm saying, what? They didn't follow the instruction. We didn't ask them for that here. Why are they giving that to us there? So evaluation not connected to the grantor's requirements. So you got to look at that evaluation, as I said earlier, as a key component. And then the lack of details on key personnel and their tasks. You don't want to, ask for some grant funds, and then that person is working as a principal all day long when they're going to have the time to do the other things for the grant. So you got to make sure that's key. And then the last thing, Dr. Joe, the budget and timeline don't match. Time is of the essence. You got to spend this money within that timeline and match the goals, objectives, and strategies that you have outlined.
Definitely. Yes. Time is of the essence. And we got a couple of grants that we're going to share as well that are upcoming. Let me take that banner down. And I know that's a hard read, but we got 3 of them that are coming up. The Dollar General Literacy Foundation grant due March 6th. Okay. Grants to schools, public libraries, organization to help K-12 students. Powerful opportunity there. We've got the 21st Century Community Learning Centers grant. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. It's been a long-standing grant, has served many communities, many schools, many organizations, as well as the State Personnel Development grants through the U.S. Department of Education. So we got 3 grants right there as well. And as Dr. Kirton has mentioned before, we will offer professional development for grant writing, as well as we'll take on opportunities to write the grants for you. Dr. Kirton and I work very well together. And again, he's written over $100 million in grants. And this is the work. It's about putting students and educators in positions where they can be successful and impactful over the long term. So,
Dr. Joe,
anything you want to add to that, Doc?
Yeah, I'm going to add something to that because I just threw 3 grants up there, and I had a reason for throwing them out there. The literacy grants, because I know you do a lot with your literacy program, and you're an English major, so I was thinking about matches to what you were doing. Yeah. The 21st Century Community Learning Center grant is primarily for after-school programs. I've written that grant and received that grant over 6 times. That's a great grant, and you need to check with your State Department because even though it's a federal grant, it's administered differently state by state. So within our DNA model that Dr. Joe is going to share with you, it shows the cycle. So this cycle is coming up now. Time is of the essence. Your state is going to be putting out information about the 21st Century grants, and you need to make sure that you adhere to that. And then also look at your state's website because each state handles the federal funds that they receive differently. So that's about that state personal development and professional development, because I know you do a lot of professional development, and sometimes school districts can't afford everything that you're offering. But the needs are there, so we don't need to say, well, I can't afford that when you know your students need it. So right. You need to find a way to get the funds in to make sure that your students are successful and your teachers are supported.
Love it. All right. And with that, I definitely want to give you an opportunity, as always, to tell people how they can contact you, Dr. Kirton.
Well, you got the information up there on the screen. And like I said, I'm not going to say I consider you as a son, but I am old enough to be your daddy. And I got a son that's older than you. So just mentoring and working with you and doing the research with the global DNA that we've been doing on that platform. I think that's a great opportunity. And I want to make sure that your guests understand that. And since we're working on it together, take the opportunity. This is a closeout end of the year. We're going to let you experience this at no cost. So all you got to do is contact one of us about the global DNA assessment. It's a $350 investment. We consider it as a Christmas present. We're going to show you how powerful this research we've been doing.
Yeah.
We're going to allow you and your team members to take this assessment before we do a grant writing workshop with you, free or no charge. And if you don't like it, we're going to give you your money back. So you got the contact information there with the global DNA piece, and make sure you contact Dr. Joe, or you can contact me. If you contact either one of us, we kind of like went in on this platform together. We've doing a lot of research. We put a lot of funds into it, and we're ready to make sure that it makes an impact on what you're trying to do at your schools and in your district. So take this 10-minute assessment. I know he has it on his website. It's on my website. Take this 10-minute assessment, and you tell me if it doesn't describe who you are, your strengths, your struggles, your results versus relationships. And then I'm going to take it one step further, Dr. Joe.
Okay.
Because I truly believe in what we're doing. Not only will we do an individual assessment, we would do a complementary team assessment as well. And let's take that on through January, because if I said to the end of the year, that's not going to give people time and they're out of school. Let's take that to the end of January, where we'll give them a free assessment. And then also let's throw in a team assessment as well.
I'm with it. I've seen the value. I know the value. Those schools that I've worked with have seen such great value. So I'm excited about it. And I want you all to participate. But if you don't participate, that's going to be your loss right there. Because this is an extreme opportunity to accelerate collaboration and increase self-awareness through team dynamics. It's powerful, you all. And as a long-time turnaround and school improvement principal and specialist, I know the value in what it does for you and how it allows you to shape your professional development, allows you to better communicate with your leaders, as well as your educators, as well as students, because you are more in bounds with yourself. And when we're more in bounds with ourselves, that allows us to better work with and through other people. So again, time is of the essence. And I also want to definitely remind you of the various resources that I provide through Joe Griffin Global Consulting as well. The instructional leadership pillar, which is closely tied to the connection. It's the DIP approach for educator success manual. Discipline culture plus instructional practice equals performance. I'll be presenting on it again in New York City in February at the Innovative School Summit. So if you have not signed up and you want to see me in action presenting professional development in the Big Apple, definitely sign up and come on out. We also got to tell you about empowering educational communities, a guide for teacher principal collaboration. I'll be presenting at the CASA conference, California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators, in March here in Hollywood, as well, on pieces of that framework as well. And that book is endorsed by Dr. Pedro Nogueira, as well as the GOAT, Principal Barute Kufele. So we appreciate all of that. Can't forget the SEL pillar, because it's closely tied to those things that we've been talking about as well. Different approach for student and adult success. That's the 33 principle model that teaches you to dream with desire, initiate and invest in yourself, push past pain, as well as persist with purpose. Got the activity in the curriculum book, as well as a guidebook for the readers. And of course, the integration of the arts therapy, the Spirit, Heart, and Soul collection of poems that's closely tied to my ELA background and so forth. Lots of great information, you all. I'm just happy. Again, this is the final Speaking Life into You Leadership live stream for 2024. We have the first quarter already mapped out. So we're going to continue to bring value. We're going to continue to show up. We're going to continue to be intentional about empowering educators, continue to be here so that you can get the knowledge that you need, and constantly trying to add value to what you already do as educators, as leaders in this world that we live in. With that being said, Doc, you got anything else that Well, let me add this too. We got Black History Month coming up, you all. And you're going to need a speaker. You're going to need someone to come in to talk to your students as well as adults. And been working on a piece for it. Dream with Desire, honoring the past, building our future. So for us to keep going forward, we got to make sure that we're not only honoring the past, but we're building toward our future. Time is of the essence. Otherwise, I just want to tell everyone, it's been a great ride. Dr. Kirton, you want to say anything else before we go?
No, I just want to commend you for your Speaking Life into Your Leadership live stream. It's motivated me, and I'm retired now, so I can see the value of it. And I want to encourage people to really take advantage of some of the things you're putting out there with the research that you've done, the DIP approach, the assessment. I commend you for what you're doing, and just keep going strong into 2025.
Appreciate that, Dr. Kirton. Celebrating milestones. That's what it's all about. Celebrating milestones, accepting your wins, understanding that losses also teach lessons. So thank you for that compliment, Dr. Kirton, and that we will do. Otherwise, I just want to tell everyone again, Happy New Year. It will be a new year when we see you next week, but be safe and definitely make it on the other side. To all, always motivated, definitely be inspired, keep pushing forward. Love what you do. Dr. Joe signing off, always speaking and writing life into you.